What is the worst thing that happened at your school? My classmate's dad had a heart attack at graduation and died. He was just yelling at his wife and keeled over. A similar thing happened at my girlfriend's graduation. It was a hit-packed gym and all of a sudden in the middle of the ceremony people start moving away from a spot in the bleachers near me. Turns out one of the graduating students' aunt was having a heart attack. She lived though, because literally every first responder was their small town 1500 people 80 in graduating class and the fire station was a block away. Kid streaked fully naked across campus, hiding his face using a condom. He passed out about a minute into the run. There was a girl in my school who was being bullied and basically chased into the busy street in front of the school. She got hit by a few cars. The next morning people were making fun of the situation because her shoes flew off after she was hit. My school was filled with assholes. Edit, she did end up dying. Edit 2, I think she may have died on impact, but the memory is fuzzy. She didn't die in the hospital, that I know for sure. At one of the schools I went to, some kid stabbed a disabled kid to get into a gang. I still remember one kid bashing another in the head with a metal stool. There was a lot of blood. Summer school is dangerous. Other than that, just your average 6 scandals, drugs, odds, etc. Added a couple words I forgot earlier. We had somebody plant fake bombs and call in a bomb threat at the high school so the police would all be focused at the high school. Was really just a distraction for a double homicide/suicide across town. Edit, this was in Northwest Washington. A teacher went to break up a fight and she got stabbed in the chest. Teachers were not allowed to break up fights after that. The seniors planned their senior prank to have a bunch of alarm clocks go off in lockers all over the school throughout the day. The idea was that by the time one locker was unlocked to turn off the alarm, another would be going off. Unfortunately for the seniors, the day they planned this happened to be the same day Obama was campaigning at the fairgrounds less than a mile away. The alarm clocks got mistaken as bomb threats, and just about every senior in the school was questioned by either police or teachers. Basically it was just a huge misunderstanding that led to a whole bunch of shoot. My brother dated a girl briefly in 8th grade who later snapped in high school. She had convinced a group of 5 other people to commit to a plan to weld the high school doors shut and burn people with a homemade flamethrower and shoot people. The morning of the planned day someone was tipped off and the cops called. The school went on lockdown for 6 to 7 hours and they found the girl's parents taped up and stabbed a crazy number of times in their closet of their home. This was 3 years after my brother dated her. Back in 6th grade, a classmate of mine was drowned in the bathtub by his father, who also killed his mom that day. Only his 6-year-old little sister survived. I think that was a pretty big shock for everyone at my school. A lot of this is secondhand because I was 10 when it happened, but here goes. A teacher at my elementary school was going through an extremely difficult divorce. Her husband was a generally angry guy, and he had really gone off the deep end when she served him the divorce papers. Also had 2 kids enrolled in the same school. So the husband goes MIA for a week or 2, no contact with anyone, unless it's through lawyers. Eventually he comes back, a whole lot calmer, and for another week or 2 there's an uneasy peace. During this time both of them were removing their stuff from the home to live separately, always with witnesses so nothing went down. One day she shows up at school more distraught than usual, and leaves at lunch to go back to the house. The husband lured her there somehow. Most people think by tricking her to agree to a midday moving session, but it was a trap. She showed up, it was only him, and he killed her before turning the gun on himself. It was a small community, so it hit everyone really hard. Very sweet and popular girl who was a friend of mine was killed by her father while she was in middle school. Her grandmother was a lunch lady in elementary school and was a student favorite. Her dad was a cop, and after killing her he killed himself, leaving his wife without child or husband. Had a girl in my middle school whose brother stabbed her mom to death. The mom told her to run while being stabbed, and she hid in their van in the garage. Well, I knew a girl who was born with a deformity in her legs, so she went in for this big surgery to reform or change the shape her bones grew in. I don't know all the details of the surgery. Anyway, she was off school for weeks, on crutches for 2 or 3 months, and finally got off of them. First day without crutches, she crosses a street from the convenience store to the school, gets nailed by a jeep, breaks both her legs pretty badly. Crutches for the rest of the year. Edit. This was in high school. A suicide pact was successfully carried out between a rich/popular cheerleader and her wrong side of the tracks boyfriend from another school. When her parents forbade her from seeing him, they jumped off a cliff together to their deaths. Rumors indicated she initially survived the fall and suffered for hours. It was surreal watching reporters descend upon the school and all the opportunism that occurred as a result of the tragedy by both students and media groups. We had a kid at my high school who was the weird kid. He was mentally slow, was very socially awkward, heavily into anime and WWE. He was a really genuine great guy, which is why we started talking and became quick friends. Then about 4 months later I heard from a mutual friend, his best friend, that he passed away in his sleep the night before and was found that morning. He had heart problems he had to take medication for. He had a heart attack in his sleep and no one knew till his mom went to wake him up the next morning. Word got around school a day after that about his passing. It disgusted me how many students who barely knew him or talked to him were his best friends all of a sudden. We had some people play actual Russian roulette, and when someone eventually lost, the other 2 guys tried to hide the body. They're both in jail now. After school, 3 siblings were crossing the road. One was on a bike and his younger brother was on the handlebars when a truck hit them, killing them. Their sister watched them die. The next year, after I went to a different school, the band teacher's wife suspected him of cheating, so she hired a private investigator. The investigator caught him banging a 14-year-old on the side of the road. The teacher tried to run the investigator over with his car. This happened in Clermont, FL, if you want to Google it. Not really at my school, but when I was a junior, these 3 boys went out to this guy's house in the middle of nowhere to rob him. I guess he had a lot of guns and money and stuff that they wanted. When he opened the door, they started beating him up, and I guess they just wanted to beat him enough to where he couldn't fight back while they took his stuff, but they ended up beating him so bad that they killed him. 2 of them went on the run, while the 3rd one showed up to school the next day. The police came and arrested him at school. That was a fun time. Gym teacher had a hidden camera for years in the girls' locker room, placed inside a washer with a do not open sign. For whatever reason, nobody ever opened it. A student that cut his grass decided to snoop in his house while the teacher wasn't home. He came across tapes named Last Look 03 and other names of that nature. Popped one into the VCR and saw the girls from our school on the tapes. It made some big news as this teacher was well respected, especially as a track and football coach. Edit. WASHER equals WASHING machine. One student poured baby oil all over the upstairs hallway, ruined the floors, and broke a janitor's leg. His family had to pay for damages, and now our school has a strict no lubricants policy for senior pranks. Edit. I go to school in Ohio. We were a poor trailer park school with high rates of domestic and substance abuse. Worst incident I remember at school was one kid shooting another kid in the stomach over a bad drug deal. Did it right in front of everyone in the hall between classes. The worst thing to happen in general though was a classmate of mine breaking into a old woman's home to rob her, discovering she was home, and murdering her with a baseball bat. That whole school felt like it was cursed, and people just got meaner there, merely by walking inside its doors. Worst guy at my school did the second as well, beat a 75-year-old woman in an attempt to get heroin money. She didn't die, but she definitely suffered for the rest of her life from the injuries. He also raped a girl at a homecoming game, left a severed pig's head in front of town hall, helped a lot of people overdose, and countless other petty shit. He ended up getting tied to a tree in one of our state parks and was beaten to death. No one has any idea who did it, but I don't think anyone cared enough to look very hard. Had a couple of kids sneak in over the weekend and plug all the sinks and leave the water running. One of the kids was the son of the town's attorney. They only got caught because somebody started talking. Never saw the attorney's kid again after that. Going way back to elementary school in the mid-70s. A kid a couple years older than me was walking/balancing along the top of a piece of playground equipment that was clearly not designed to be used in that fashion. Picture a 20-foot long piece of cast iron pipe about 3 feet above the blacktop playground. It was the 70s. Remember, he fell and fractured his skull and died. I had a teacher who was literally crying while teaching and no one knew what was wrong or what to do. Finally she told us she found out her husband was cheating on her with her best friend that morning. No idea why she didn't take the day off. In the private middle school I went to, our French teacher learned she was being laid off but still had to teach for the rest of the week. I wasn't there that day, but what I heard from my classmates, there were 6 of us, she spent the whole class crying. Really sad, especially since this was at the very beginning of the 2008 recession. A kid brought a gun to school and shot 4 of his friends in the head while they were sitting at the lunch table. All but one ended up passing away. Roided out jock kid's girlfriend broke up with him. Was playing Russian roulette with a revolver at a party. Lived. A week or so later put a 20 gauge shotgun in his mouth and pulled the trigger. Side note, surprisingly looked pretty good in his open casket viewing. It's been about 25 years and I went to visit the town last year and his old pickup truck is still on display on a raised pedestal in front of the family home as an effigips //I imga com/i7vbx jpg RIP Joe. Some idiot bragged about having a bomb in his locker. They found a bomb in his locker. Multiple stories here. First one. Kid exposed himself to like 6 different girls. They had all reported it. 6th finally got him expelled. He was 18. The school wouldn't let the police get involved. Second one. Teacher was having sex with students. Very obviously, because the principal was retiring and didn't care, he just made it where she couldn't close her door anymore. Finally, it gets out. School collects 6 years of evidence that she was doing this, then sat on it. Meanwhile, she quit, moved to counties over, and started teaching there. There's more. Those were just 2 of the bigger issues. Had a series of 6 offenders. One in particular had just been released from juvie for getting a 13-year-old drunk and molesting her while he was 16. They let him back in. No idea why. He got arrested not too long after. One of my classmates was attacked at a party by some idiot skinheads. Beat the shit out of him, kicked him with steel toe boots, and sodomized him with the end of a patio umbrella. They also tried to carve a swastika into his chest, poured bleach over him to try to hide the evidence. He was in a medically induced coma for months. Actually came back to school, but was never the same. A year after we graduated, he jumped off the side of a cruise ship. He was such a nice guy. It still just blows my mind the amount of hatred some people can hold. RIPD. Summer Shat dressed up as the Saw puppet and biked around the parking lot. We had to go on lockdown cause apparently he was threatening to hurt some chick. We had a kid, let's call him Steve, who had some anger management issues. In kindergarten he would get mad and throw things. In 1st grade, I was in class when he literally threw a chair, pushed over a desk, then punched and kicked a teacher. He was expelled and came back in 3rd grade because in our district expulsion only lasted a year in most cases. In 3rd grade he pushed a girl up against a locker and choked her. He shot another kid in a locker too, and was really mean, especially to a different girl with Downs, who couldn't talk and tell him to stop. Steve threw a chair again at a teacher and was expelled again. He came back again in 5th grade and got expelled after biting my friend and hitting him. My friend was helping him with math when Steve turned to him, bit him and broke skin. My school ended up changing their policies at that point to allow for permanent exclusion. I think Steve ended up going to a school for kids with behavioral issues. 2 students in my class died both accidentally during the last year and a half of high school. The first death got a lot of initial attention and was mourned over 4 weeks. A large percentage of the students went to the student's funeral. We had stuff dedicated to him. The second death seemed to have been forgotten about by the next morning. What's worse is that at our graduation ceremony, they brought 2 candles to light, each one signifying one of those students. The first one lit up and stayed going the whole time. The second one wouldn't light even after them trying for an embarrassingly long time. The year that EC Sniper was at large, George Bush came to visit my high school. His security team brought extra snipers to put on the roof in case that EC Sniper was nearby. They had snipers for a sniper who might be looking at snipers looking for a sniper. One of my school friends went on a walk with his family around Christmas on what turned into an extremely windy day. The wind ended up uprooting a tree which fell on top of them, killing my friend.